discipline and the IIBA. What is that? What does it really mean? What are we talking about when we talk about business analysis? And then there's IIBA certifications. Funnily enough, I got my certification in 2012, and I've recertified a few times. And last year was such a crazy year for me in my professional world and the HR. I'm in the HR world in my professional life, and then on the side, I kind of do this fun stuff. I thought I had lapsed my certification. I nearly had a mental breakdown because I was going to have to take that exam again. So I'm really glad I was wrong, and I haven't lapsed it, so I still have time to recertify. So I would say if you have your certification, make sure you're paying attention to your recertifications because they have a lot of strict rules, and there is no grace period. I learned that pretty fast. So make sure you're doing that. And they actually have automated the system because when Tami and I did it, it was really bad. It was a spreadsheet that you emailed, and you know, they've done a really good job of automating that. Thank you, because you know we are analysts and that's what we do, right? A lot of the work we do is automation. So I'm glad they got it together and are doing that. So so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about business analysis as a career because most of my career, I was a business analyst. About 5 years ago, I moved into the HR world in the org development space and training and leadership development. And it was actually kind of a natural transition for me because I had already been developing, you know, tools, process, helping people develop, like a lot of that you do as an analyst. So it actually wasn't that far of a stretch, funnily enough, and then moved into more of a leadership role on the HR side. So I'm kind of an example of business analysis as a career. You can have the potential of going into a specific domain. So say, you know, you as an analyst, you start in healthcare. Or, you know, and you might actually end up in a business department within healthcare because you become so well versed and so knowledgeable about the work you do. So that's actually a pretty good option. Or you can continue to build your skills. And Tami, I'm sure, will talk about her background, but she has built her skills kind of layer after layer of like really deep knowledge and analysis, but working in various career paths, you know, various industry. We can go to the next one. And please feel free to interrupt me because I'm happy to answer questions. I love this. I love this, Dilbert, because it's so funny because we just don't have as an industry regular titles. You know, if you're going to research, I'm sure if I had you all put in the chat, those of you who are analysts, let's go ahead and try it. I mean, put what's your title? And we're all going to see, you know, probably 25 different titles because there's just, it's out there, right? It's data analyst, business analyst, systems analyst, product owner, all those different types of things. And yeah, we're starting to get them in. Yep, senior business analyst. That's a nice title. I'm guessing that's probably Priscilla because she's got an easy title because of I had some influence in that. Oh, I'm seeing process improvement analyst. Yeah, change management analyst. That's a really interesting title to me because that's really kind of going to the heart of what you're doing sometimes as a BA is managing that change, right? Bringing value to the industry. Business analyst consultant. Yeah, that brings a level of credibility because if you think of kind of as a consultant, it's a two-way conversation. Like, hey, what do you think? Hey, what do you think? You know, so that brings some credibility. IT security analyst, security documentation specialist, tech writer. Yeah, those are all really, really common things I've seen. Steve, you can go to the next one. So to talk a little bit about kind of if you're an HR professional and you think about, you know, how do I manage, how do I track the business analysis profession or as a career? It's actually pretty complicated because of the exact thing you guys are all typing in. Everybody, I have only seen 2 of the same title, which is senior business analyst. I don't think I've seen any other titles that are the same. And so that's really hard because if you think of like project manager, it's like they all got project manager as a title, right? You know, for the most part. And so it's just a tough industry to track, but I'm going to attempt to give you some insight to it. So go ahead to the next one, Steve. Thank you. I really appreciate you. So this is some compensation data from salary.com for business analysts. I will say it's a little bit dated, but it's a little hard to track salary data right now because unemployment is, I would call it spotty. So I would love, you know, it's awesome that Nora talked about opportunities, because that's great to hear. Because I think in certain industry, because one of you had security analysts, in certain industries, it's almost negative. Like they can't find enough people to do the work. But in other industries, as you guys can imagine, it's unprecedentedly high right now because of the times we're going through. And I would love to predict some optimism for the BA career from a standpoint of, you know, companies are going to start to realize efficiency, process analysis, all those things can actually bring some dollars to the bottom line and saving, you know, saving revenue, saving more headcount, saving time, all those things. So hopefully that does start to happen. And I'm sure in some industries it already does. I know in insurance, that's the analysts are a big part of the insurance industry, plus along with healthcare. So this, you can see some compensation data. I have it, you know, sort of the middle range for a business data analysts is actually pretty varying. You can see from a level 1 at about 60,000 into the more senior roles in the mid 90s. And I would say typically what I've seen is that people are looking for more senior people. So it's a little hard to get into it, right, if you don't have that background. But I do think there's possibility out there. If you go to the next one for me. This is another way to look at it for the full US. You can see the numbers are a little different. Plus, I pulled it from different titles. So no one had management analyst. That's probably an older, I would probably say that's probably an older title. But the other, and computer systems maybe is a little old, but information security or cyber security or IT security, that's a really common one you can see. Financial analysts, I would call that kind of a hybrid role. Like, you know, 50% of your work is you're knee deep in spreadsheets, really looking through ROI analysis, you know, really tracking the business, probably reporting in through a finance area. And then the other half of your role is in the business analyst space in terms of driving change, maybe doing mini projects or initiatives or process improvement for that area. Okay, next one. And then this one shows you a little bit of, you know, what are the growing areas of the industry? And what I really want to highlight is look at that top number. Now that number was published pre-COVID, so I'd be curious to see what they would publish you know, next year in terms of how many new BA jobs are predicted within the US. Tami and I had a peer of ours one time say that there was 1 million BAs in the US, but it's almost hard. I tried to track that number down and it's almost impossible because of the title variations that are out there. But what I would just encourage you is if there's certain areas you might want to go into, I would look into information security. That is definitely the largest area that is growing and a lot of opportunity. I would also say market research is another area, and you can take a look. I'm sure Bob's going to provide the slide deck later, and you can take a look more at these titles. I think I have one more slide, or maybe not. Oh, I don't. Okay, so I would just kind of wrap at, if you are kind of having a question in terms of, you know, where maybe you're not in the analysis field yet and you're thinking about it, I would look into some of those titles. You can go on to those sites. The Bureau of Labor Statistics is, you know, a government site. It's out there. There's all kinds of information, and just start, trying different searches if you're kind of curious. And I would also say, you know, if you're not sure where you might be looking or what areas, look at different job postings and see what what stands out for you, what's interesting for you, because that might help you, when you're talking to folks like Experis around, hey, this is what I'm looking for. And then maybe they can help you with openings they have. So just encouraging you. I do a side kind of gig for UC Davis in an introductory class for business analysis. So I really love to see new analysts come into the market, so to speak, because it is a very important role to an organization. If you're trying to explain to the CEO what's the value of a business analyst, think about that. What would anyone have a comment that they may, what would they say to the CEO? Why do we have business analysts here?
Because we know the business.
But what else? What would you say?
My thing about a business analyst, what I tell everybody, like when we're doing our BABOK and everything, your elevator speech is you're a change agent. You enable change within the organization and make sure it gets done successfully.
Yeah, you're handling those details. You're also bringing value. Don't forget, you might be saving the business revenue. You might be adding revenue. You might be decreasing. I had a little. This is kind of how I got in the HR space, kind of negatively. I hate to admit, but like I had done a lot of analysis on, do we really need this many people doing this much work, like process analysis, and we automated a lot of stuff. So, there's just value that an analyst brings. So take it away, Tami. Tami's going to describe the discipline and the IIBA.
Woohoo! Hi, guys. It's good to be here again. I'll give you a little bit of a background from where my career has gone. It is a little bit different than Kris's. But when I started this, I was answering like 4 lines at the money store, opening up 500 pieces of mail every day. And somebody saw that I had the knack for analysis. So I worked my way up, worked for 3 consulting firms. And then my most recent ones is I worked at Caleb EMF with Kris and Priscilla. I was there for 6 years, but I needed a change. I wanted something a little bit different, something a little bit more challenging to keep myself growing. And there was an opportunity at Golden One to be Senior Process Improvement Analyst. So that was me, Kris. So my niche is definitely process improvement. I've been doing it my entire career. And what my job entails every day is just really improving Golden One for the member. So our focus is always looking at how can we improve the member's experience. So it's, it all starts within the organization that we do our jobs together. But as a result, that makes a better experience for the members, for banking, online banking, in the branches, that kind of thing. So my department reports directly to the executive VPs, and it's a different dynamic versus working with key business stakeholders. So we're looking at it from a 50,000-foot level, from a strategic lens to make sure that the organization is improving and doing the most streamlined processes as possible. So that's my background. And you guys are really lucky. I know Kris talked about during this COVID and kind of trying to hang in there. But I do have a pandemic pet, and you're lucky to not see her tonight. But I do have a ball python now, and I would be wearing her around my neck, but she's a little cold, so you guys are lucky. So I do have an exciting pet that probably no one else has. So Steve, you can go ahead and go to the next slide. So overall, like, what is business analysis? I mean, like Kris was talking about, there's really not one name for a business analyst. It's almost like, if you think about it, we kind of do business analysis in our own homes. We're managing our homes, we're managing our families. So it's kind of like a business analysis, but we don't necessarily need that title. But it's like Bob said, it's practicing that enabling of the change in the enterprise. We are the ones that they come to because it's our job. While other people have their day-to-day jobs, we're the ones that go and we gather the information. What are the pain points? What's working? What's not working? And we gather that information so that we can enable better change for the enterprise. And we can rationalize it because we can understand what the pros and the cons are, what the risks are, how we should move forward. We provide solutions, recommendations in order to be able to make the better change, that they don't really have to focus on that. That's our job from day to day. And it's kind of fun because we're not limited to being just in our certain little area. Like when I was working at the money store, I was in a small little area and I had a business focus that I focused on. But throughout my career, I've been able to do all sorts of different kinds of analysis. Now I'm doing more of strategic at the executive level. There could be more tactical, meaning that how our day-to-day not day-to-day operations, but how's the day-to-day stuff kind of working for everyone. And then there's that basic operational, like being in HR for Kris. How can we improve, onboarding, offboarding, those kinds of things. So it's not just about, your business area. It can be all sorts of things as you grow as a business analyst. And it's performed on projects or a lot of times enterprise continuous improvement. Right now, I wouldn't say per se that I'm on any specific business area. Mine is more like projects that are for continuous improvement. We keep working in the same areas, but we're constantly improving and improving and improving based on member feedback or surveys or a lot of just a lot of manual processes trying to make things a little bit easier. And the funnest thing about what we do is trying to really understand what the current state is. If I really find it hard to believe when there's analysts that don't do a current state. I need to know, what is it doing now? How does it work? What's working? What's not working? And then you do your future state. That's when you get to be a little bit visionary and strategic on trying to figure out how to solve it and coming up with those recommendations. And there's definitely tasks and techniques specific to the context of an initiative, which is a perspective. The BABOK explains those. There's Agile, there's business process improvement, there's information security. There's different ways to do it. So it just depends on what niche you also have, what really you are drawn to and what you're really good at. So you can go to the next slide, Steve. So who is a business analyst? Like I said, I kind of feel like almost everyone in an organization is a business analyst to some extent. We're all doing our job, but we're also learning and we're becoming experts in what we do. But we are the lucky ones because it's our job to do it every single day versus like Kris in HR. She's got to deal with, employee issues or organizational growth or all sorts of HR things. So she's like doing her day-to-day job, but she can't really per se sit down and go, okay, let me look at this one aspect of HR and see how I can improve it. So our job is we come in and we do that for them. So we analyze what those needs are, try to identify what some solutions are. We strategize. We're the ones that are thinking outside the box. We're the ones that, we love Google because we can find all sorts of things on Google. And we're the ones that drive change. And, there's always change in organizations. Some of it is perceived as good and some of it is perceived as bad. But, we're driving change. That's how businesses and organizations evolve. And what's nice is that we understand, what the enterprise is. I like to think of it as more of the 50,000 foot level. And we like to, be that umbrella of trying to understand all the touch points in an organization. And where does the organization want to go? What are its goals? We can focus on those things versus, the minutia of being in a day-to-day job where we're just focused on one thing. And we are definitely the facilitating stakeholders that help that collaboration happen. We are the ones that can get people together to talk the same language. I remember one of my consulting experiences, it was not a fun experience, but as a business analyst and understanding what those enterprise problems and goals were, these stakeholders did not want to play together. And I finally got to the point where I just went up to the whiteboard and started drawing and laying it out and saying, you talk, then you talk, then you talk. You know, so we're the ones that can get people to come together, collaborate, make change, you know, get the discussions going about what is working, what's not working, and how we should proceed forward. So you can go to the next one, Steve. So not all of you know what the IIBA is. It's actually the International Institute of Business Analysis. As Kris said, it is one of probably the largest organization that supports the industry of business analysis. It's around the world, and it's been around for quite some time, 2003. So I think I started, I think I started in like 2005. So I've been a member for a really long time. I love this organization. They provide a lot of insight and guidance toward what it means to be a business analyst. It helps you kind of know where your profession is, because when I started a long time ago, there was none of this. You know, I've been a business analyst for probably about 30 years now, and there was none of this. So it was pretty much anybody who's been in the industry like me it's the seat of your pants. You learn as you go. You build, you know, your tool set, and, you know, eventually you have it all. And then people build these organizations and write these wonderful books that can help, you know, get us all on the same page, that we're all learning together. So you can go to the next slide. And the BABOK. Okay, so Kris mentioned we took our Cbap certification on version 2. It is now in version 3. I believe that came out by about 4 or 5 years ago. And it went from, I think, like 250 pages to over 500 pages. And it was a good change. So talk about change. It was a very good change. Version 2 was really hard to follow, and it was really kind of confusing. But version 3 is a plethora of information. And know that it is not a methodology. The BABOK is the Business Analyst Book of Knowledge, which is really about guiding you as a business analyst. It teaches you skills, tasks, techniques, different ways to do analysis. It gives you that guidance that I didn't have a long time ago when I started. And so I had to learn a lot of this. And I'm going to tell you now, before you even get to the certifications, it took me 4 times to pass that test. And that was version 2. Meaning that just because you're a business analyst and you've been doing it for 20-something years doesn't mean that that's what the guidelines could be for this profession. And that's what this book is. This book is really guidelines that all business analysts should have to be able to talk the same language and be able to produce the same kind of work. And when you get stuck on something and not knowing how to do something like a cost-benefit analysis, this book has it. You're like, what is that? Sure, you can go Google, but there's so many people that put input into that you can go here, and there's thousands of people that are following this and are certified. So you're following the industry standard. You can go to the next slide. And you can click through these, Steve, because I think I have some extra stuff on these until you get to the end of it. Let's try to be creative here. Here we go. So the BABOK has 6 knowledge areas, and these are all of them. And the book starts out with business analysis, planning, and monitoring as the 3rd chapter. And then it eventually gets to the end where it's like, I think it's solution evaluation. But no, there's no numbers on this. This has nothing to do with the chapter number. So business analysis, planning, and monitoring, it sounds like it's the most logical place to start. But this is where you start your business analysis efforts to help identify what the project's about, who are your stakeholders, you know, what's the scope of the project. So you as a business analyst are, you know, you're tasked to try to figure out, well, how you're going to do the work. It's kind of like a project manager, except we build our own plan. And then the monitoring part is pretty much usually for yourself, but it can be used in some performance conversations. It's more about What did I do wrong? What are my lessons learned? How can I improve? What did I miss? So you monitor yourself and try to be able to grow. And then again, these aren't in order, and they aren't in the order of the chapter. But you have strategy analysis, which really is about looking at the future state of an organization. It's more at the executive level, so you're modeling at a higher level versus more detailed process analysis or deliverables that you're trying to give to executives. They want it really high level, but they want it really detailed. And so that's what strategy analysis is about. Requirements analysis and design definition, that's where the detail of the strategy is to verify, validate, and describe the solution characteristics. So perhaps you've been working in the strategic analysis area. So now you have all this information. So your requirements analysis and design is more about how are you going to get there. It could be systems, it could be processes, it could be procedures, it could be all sorts of stuff, but it's more about how are you going to make that happen. So how are you going to validate and verify that with the end stakeholders, and how are you going to do that at the end of the project to make sure that it was successful. The requirements lifecycle management is more about maintaining how you're going to gather the requirements and how you're going to communicate that with your stakeholders. How are you going to collaborate with them, make sure that everyone is on the same page. And that ties over into the elicitation and collaboration, because that's really where you're gathering all of your requirements. So you have all different kinds of requirements. The BABOK has all of them, but those two tie pretty well hand in hand, because those requirements are going to help manage how you move forward. And then the solution evaluation is there's a couple ways of doing it. This could be like a post-implementation. So you can, how did the project go? Are we successful? Are we saving money? Did we waste a lot of money on something that really didn't work that well? And it can also be a solution evaluation of, we need to replace something, maybe it's a system, and you need to go out and you need to look at vendors to identify, maybe what is the best solution to replace something that you already have. Maybe it's a finance system. So that solution evaluation is gathering the requirements and then looking at different vendors to see if any of those solutions based on your requirements and what the expected performance and value of that is it going to work? So these are the 6 areas, and I'm going to tell you now, based on my experience of taking the test, this is where I got stuck. The key about this is there's tasks, techniques, all sorts of things in each one of these chapters. But the key is look at these arrows going back and forth. What that means is that you're not necessarily always in one knowledge area as you're doing your job. You're bouncing around back and forth constantly. And that's what this diagram is meant to show you. And when you take the exam, those are the kinds of questions that you're going to get. So, for example, building a business case over in business analysis, planning, and monitoring, I might say I'm going to do a business case to show that, yes, we need to move forward with this project. But I might pop over into strategic analysis because maybe the EVPs have some input on what that business case should look like. Maybe it's the cost, maybe it's the risks. So I'm bouncing back and forth, but I'm also going to go gather some requirements from stakeholders to see what the issues really are. The questions are really intermingled amongst these knowledge areas. So when you take your test, remember that. This is a key slide to remember. The next slide, please. So the business analysis discipline itself is, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar really with the life cycle of a project, but before the IIBA generally thought of it more as a project. It was presented as a project. A lot of project managers view things as a project. But the IIBA and the BABOK really focuses on that there are pre-project activities, which is kind of trying to define, should we do it? Should we not do it? Is this the right strategic direction? And once those decisions are made and you want to move forward, then there is some project work. You're doing the project, you're doing the development, you're doing the delivery, you're doing rapid application design and development. And then there's post-project. So those are the things that you close out. That's the lessons learned. That's the following up in 6 months to see if the project was successful. Was the project, what benefits did it bring? And then, your solution evaluation, that post project is making sure that, did we make the right decisions? Do we need to tweak some more? So that's what's really nice about the IIBA, is that it looks at that pre-project, during project, and your post-project, because there's efforts, there's discovery efforts, there's the actual project, and then there's making sure your KPIs are meeting the needs of the executives. So next slide. So the value of being an IIBA member is, first off, you can get a free copy of the BABOK guide. It's version 3. It's, like I said, 500 pages. If you want to go to Amazon, you can spend $80 if you want, or you can just get this for free. And there's access to an online library that, man, it probably has more than 300 books now. I'm guessing maybe about 500 books. And one of the best things about being an IIBA member is also that you get discounted fees for the exams. There's not only the exam itself, but there is application fees, there's recertification fees, there's fees. So you might as well get a discount by being a member of the IIBA. And it's really not that much. I think it's like $125 a year. So it's really worth it. And I've been one for very, very long. So I've always benefited. And I used to go read a lot of the books online that, you go to Amazon at some point and they were at least $30. So you get free books and you can learn about different perspectives, Agile, different ways to do analysis. And you can also get access to the webinars. There's free webinars, past ones, current ones. So it's just you feel like you're part of a community on the IIBA. You're there with other BAs learning the same thing, and you just feel like you've got that hub of a place to go to understand what our career and what our growth is all about. Next slide. So that's it for me. I don't know if anybody has any other questions for me before Geron takes over and talks about the certifications, about my exam or my experience, but that's all I had.
Thanks, Tami.
You're welcome.
Is Geron on?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so thanks again, Kris. Oh, Kris left. Thanks, Tami. I've been in IIB. First time I joined was around 2018, and that first meeting and attending a chapter meeting like this was this same thing where we have Kris and Tami discussing about BA relationship with project management or something like that. So I was actually hooked and joined the chapter, the Sacramento Valley chapter, the following year. So this is my third year in serving as the VP of Education and Certification. So to start off, Steve, thanks for doing this for me and being my slide clicker for tonight. I really appreciate it. So let's go to the next slide. So certification. Where you're all reading this, let me just let the truth be told that all of these, the next few slides are coming from my personal experience. What happened was, just like a quick introduction, I came from a development background. I started off as a programmer back in the 90s. And then back in 2012, 2007, I moved from development to business analysis. I never thought that there was such a position called a business analyst. And so since 2007 to present, I've been in this field. So my expertise is more on ERP implementations. I just recently joined a company, and now I'm in my 10th ERP implementation. We're about to implement SAP S/4HANA. So where the next few slides came from is that I was in a position back in 2013 where I had to change my job. I have to look for a job because my employer back then here in Fairfield, where I'm based at, had decided to move to Texas. And so we were given 6 months to look for a job. And so they were kind enough to give us, that heads up. And so back then, 2013, when I was looking at the job market, it's just the typical, job posting where we need a business analyst with these skills and some nice to have. And, here's our contact information. That is 2013, about 8 years ago. Now, 8 weeks ago, I was looking for a job because, things changed in my present employer. And so when I went back to the job market, lo and behold, the job postings have changed. Back in 2013, I would say less than 5% would require some form of certification. And there's a few certification back then. And I don't recall seeing IIBA back then. About 8 weeks ago, when I was looking for a job, lo and behold, I would say about 40% of the ads that I'm interested in are looking for specific skills. So, Steve, if you can go back, I'm sorry, to the previous slide. So as you can see here, this is an entry-level position in San Francisco. It's looking for understanding of the BA principles, preferably Cbap, or working toward certification. That's one. Next slide, please. Here's as you can see, most of these slides are centered to me because I'm based here in Fairfield. So I'm looking at anywhere as high as or as north as Sacramento and as down south as maybe as the East Bay, Walnut Creek, San Ramon area. So as you can see here, Recology, based in San Francisco, they have branches here in the Bay Area. They're looking for a business analyst with any of these IIBA certifications highlighted in yellow. To the right, you would see senior business analysts, 7 to 10 years of software support, and they prefer certification in Cbap. Okay, next slide, please. There was one here, and this kind of caught my attention. A staffing company in Sacramento, they didn't put it in the body of the job opening. They put it on the title of the opening. They said, "We need Cbap certified."
There you go.
So kind of smart move for that company. Here on the right, Solano County, where Fairfield is, located. They're looking for a business systems analyst, a senior one, and look at that one. It says desired certification and experience, Cbap. Now, I specifically put that stamp there, the question mark above it. If you look at it, remember what Tami mentioned earlier, that 6 knowledge areas. Again, this is just an excerpt of the ad. So you would see there the requirements analysis and design def. You have the BA planning and monitoring. You have the requirements and collaboration. So whoever placed this ad from the Solano County, this government, office, knows about the BABOK itself, because those 5 there are 5 of the 6 knowledge areas. I'm sure it's way up there. It's just hidden. So there you go. Next slide, please. Kaiser Permanente. This is kind of senior. When they say principal consultant, you're a product coach. Right there at the bottom, you would see, if we prefer 5 years of this, 5 years of this, 5 years of this, 6 years of this, and lo and behold, at the bottom, Cbap. Okay. And on the right, Trinet, based in Dublin. Trinet is it's like ADP. So they handle employee payroll and benefits. So they're looking for a principal business analyst, and the training requirements there, any of the following. So there you go, it's Cbap again. So as you can see, 8 years ago, it's different. I rarely see, if not, I've seen IIBA or Cbap, but 8 weeks ago when I was looking for a job, it's everywhere. I would say it's like 40+% of these ads that are looking for a business analyst. So for all of you who are looking at these slides, from Kris to Tami, and are wondering, yeah, I'm a seasoned BA at some level, why do I need certification? To me, Geron, it's a nice to have. And hopefully these slides would change your mind. That I won't be surprised 5-6 years from now that most of the BAs that are looking, companies that are looking for BAs would require some form of certification. And, Nora, I'm sure you've seen this thing with your recent clients that, hey, I need a BA. And I think I heard it from someone from Experis back then a couple of years ago. I think it's from Bobby, also from Experis, that there was a specific client, a big client, that says, oh, here's a pile of BA application or resumes. Okay, those that are Cbap certified, I want them, Bobby, on top of this pile. So that tells you about something of being certified, right? So next slide, Steve. So IIBA has these 5 certifications. Level 1, 2, and 3, they're like a tiered approach to being an ECBA, a CCBA, or a Cbap. Now, depending on your skill level and experience, you can go level 1, or you can go straight to Cbap. You don't have to go to ECBA before CCBA going to Cbap. You can start anywhere. Depending on your eligibility, you can go straight to Cbap if you have the number of man hours. They also had, IIBA released a certification for Agile, as you can see there on the 4th swatch, for Agile Analysis certification. And recently they created a certification for those specializing in business intelligence analytics. Okay, and that's the CBDA. Now, when I was updating this slide a few days ago, back in December 2019, all of these numbers are just half. Like your ECBA is just, I'd say, 2,500. CCBA is just over 1,000, and so forth. Cbap is just 7,000 a year ago, but last New Year's Day they doubled. So I'm guessing a lot of folks that are in lockdown decided, hey, why not use this time while we're on COVID lockdown to certify myself? And so I'm not surprised why these numbers doubled in just a matter of a year. Okay, next slide, please.
Just really quick, Geron, there's a question. Does the CBDA build upon the Cbap?
No, it does not. It does not. You can take the CBDA straight without going to the Cbap route. Okay. Level 1. Okay. So as we go through these, if ever you miss out on these details, that's fine, because you can go to iiba.org where all of these informations were derived from. You can just go to the headings, and there's a specific tab for certification, and you'll find all of these information there. Okay. So if you're just starting as a business analyst, your entry level is the ECBA. You need to register as a member, of course, and then you need to complete 21 hours of professional development within the last 4 years. Now, what that means is that this is some form of education that you go through. The good thing is that if you join the IIBA Sacramento Valley study group, that's 12 sessions, 2 hours each. That is around 24 PD hours already. So you're more than 21 hours. So if you join the study group, and this is our sales pitch there, you already covered that second requirement. The third and fourth are, standard code of conduct and terms and conditions. And just pass the test and you're good to go. You can use the ECBA title. Okay, next slide, please. Now, this is the recent change on ECBA. Starting, in a few weeks' time, starting March 1, they're making a change in the coverage of the examination. So as you can see here, the change is not that great. In fact, they're reducing the, here on the table on the right, the strategy analysis. They're basically removing that one and adding an extra % on the requirements analysis and design definition. The explanation is there on the left, and it's based on the fact that as an ECBA, these techniques may not be relevant, the strategy analysis and the solution evaluation. That's why they're making this change. Okay. Just a heads up, if you're taking it from March 1 onwards. Next slide, please.
Okay, one more quick question from the chat. The business analysis courses from UC Davis count as PDs?
Yes, they do. They do. Yep. In fact, I've taken the course, many years ago, back in 2009, 2010. Yeah, they did.
Kris actually teaches one of them. I think she teaches the business analysis beginning class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is true. Yeah, so you'll get a preview since you've seen Kris. So level 2 is the current certification of capability. They require minimum number of hours, 3,750 hours during the last 7 years. Okay, of the 6 BABOK knowledge areas, you should have 900 hours of 2 of the 6, or 500 hours of 4 of the 6 knowledge areas. Okay, and then the same thing for, items 3 onwards, similar to the ECBA. Okay, I'm just breezing through this in the interest of time. We only have 7 minutes, so next slide, please. Okay, Cbap, the gold standard for business analysis. They require double the hours of the CCBA, which is 7,500 hours in the last 10 years. And then they require of the 6 knowledge areas, 4 of them should have a minimum of 900 hours. Okay. And then the minimum of 35 hours of professional development in the last 4 years. So if you're joining us in the study group, you've already covered 24 of the 35 hours required. Okay.
John, this is Ronnie.
Hi, Ronnie.
Yeah, so 24 will be covered plus Bob's or yours watermark sessions.
Oh, of course. Yes, definitely. Like to recognize yes. Ronnie had been a loyal, BABOK participant student, and I'm hoping to see one day that Ronnie would take the certification, just like one of our colleagues who took the examination late last year and is now a Cbap.
I was hoping, Geron, but Bob got married, so I thought he was going to get certification.
Oh my goodness. I love it.
Yeah, so not to be sidetracked with marriage certificate, let's go back to IIBA certificate, so yeah, so that's the Cbap. Moving forward, next slide, please. Okay, this is the the Agile. Now, this is also good if ever you have experience as a BA where you're in projects, where you're being pulled into projects where, the company is not implementing it solely as a waterfall approach, but as Agile, So nowadays you would see, and I hope, Nora, you can attest to this, that a lot of clients and companies right now, when they say, I need a BA with additional skills, like BA with Agile background, BA with ERP background, you would see BA with specific, applications like BA with Tableau, BA with Java background, BA with Power BI background, and things like that. So getting the certification is good to prove that you are familiar with the Agile approach to product development or system development. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the latest one that they offered. I think they started this a couple of years ago. And this is to address the certification for those handling big data. So a lot of us business analysts are exposed to different projects. Some of them involve business intelligence, business analytics. The front runners are Tableau. You have Power BI from Microsoft and so forth. And now the latest one, SAP S/4HANA for bigger enterprises. So this one handles the I'd say certifies you if you're really knowledgeable about business data analytics, business intelligence, and that sort of thing. And this is fairly new. In fact, as you can see earlier, there's just about 100 plus that are certified around the world. So compared to 14,000 Cbap currently. So next slide, please. Benefits of certification. To you, it again, just like what Kris mentioned, it's building your credibility. There was one, I'm just looking at the time. So there was one conversation I had with a recruiter here in the East Bay when I asked them, why do you need Cbap certified or IIBA certified BA? And the reply from this recruiter kind of stunned me when she said, it's a lady, that one thing we like about PMI and IIBA is that if we need someone and they are Cbap certified, that means that IIBA did all of the verification, the validation, the vetting process. They tested this guy, passed all of these tests, and now it's a Cbap. That removes all of the worries and inhibitions that we have as recruiters, because we know that IIBA certified this person, that he knows what he's doing. And so I thought, wow, okay. That says a lot from a recruiter. And again, to your organization, having the a reliable resource that knows all of these 6 knowledge areas, 50 techniques, and you have 5, 6 competencies and 7 or 8 perspective that we'll go through the study group, says a lot about you as a certified business analyst. Okay. Next slide, please. Exam information. Again, all of these numbers are in the iiba.org. So as you can see, as a member, you get some discounts. So let's say the exam fee to start with for the Cbap alone. So you would see there Cbap. If you're a non-member, you pay $450. If not, it's $325. So it adds up, plus all of the benefits that Tami mentioned earlier. Online, library and that sort of thing. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, so your certification process, just like what Kris mentioned earlier, in the past when I joined, I have to upload my spreadsheet. Now IIBA has an online form that you can upload all of your or background and number of hours and which of the knowledge areas you're trying to attribute those hours. So I would say the BA who worked on the IIBA portal, did a really good job there. Application fee, submit all the application, pay the fee, and schedule your exam. Okay. Next slide, please. Now, this provides you some background on what to expect when you take the examination. So it's as you can see, it's a graduated scale. ECBA, the entry level, is 50 multiple choice. A lot of them are based on knowledge, like fill in the blanks. sort of thing, memorization. CCBA, it's 3 hours, 130 multiple choice questions. A lot of them are scenario based. Cbap is 120 in 3.5 hours. So as you can see, depending on the level of certification you're taking, you know, like the Cbap, all of those questions are scenario based. So that's why we highly recommend that you join us in our study group to prepare for this. Okay. Next slide, please. And I apologize, I'm now extending a minute or so. This would provide you the, you know, the distribution of questions per subject matter, per knowledge areas. Okay. Next slide, please. And again, you can just view that at the IIBA website. So study techniques, these are the things that we highly recommend. We discussed these things and a lot of recommendations during the study group, and each person has his or her own style of studying, and we can provide that to you in our study groups. I think we're almost done. Next slide, please.
Pretty much.
Yep. When I took my examination, I took it there at back then, 2016, 2017, at Prometric there in Sunrise Boulevard, just near the mall.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's a different provider. I forgot the name, but it's not Prometric anymore. And this new provider, they give you two options. One is on-site, and the other one is online. Now, on their website, they would provide you a tour on how the online exam works, where you're basically going through like 3.5 hours of Zoom meeting with a proctor, the other person looking at you all the time. And when you take the examination, make sure that you have the capability of swiveling or rotating your camera, because what the other guy, the proctor, would do is ask you to, you know, give me a 360-degree view of your room. They may ask you to look at the ceiling, you know, under the table. So just to make sure that you're in a, you know, safe location, there's no references, cheat sheet, or whatsoever. And then you basically take the examination in this Zoom meeting, and the proctor is just quiet. They're just looking at you, and you take the examination in their website. So, you know, your style, if ever you wanted to do it on site or, you know, online. Okay. Next slide, please. And that's it. We'd like to, you know, again, we'd like to join you to join us in the study group. I'm sure we have face-to-face version in back then in VSP or Blue Shield, and we have our study group every Wednesday night online, every other Wednesday starting March 3. That's 2 weeks from today. Okay, that's it for me. And any questions so far? Bob, you may want to take on this as well. Thank you.
There was a question in the chat. Is the study group for Cbap exams only?
No, it handles those three certification levels: ECBA, CCBA, and Cbap. And you know, as much as we would like people to feel that they're prepared for taking a certification test, you know, the material itself is very beneficial. You're going to hear a lot of good things. You're definitely going to learn things. You know, there's the 6 knowledge areas. There's 50 different techniques that are covered. There's skills sets that we talk about, and just some general definitions. You know, but the people who take this have to remember, we're going to learn the BABOK way. So, you know, someone might say, well, I don't think that's right, or we don't do it that way where we work. You know, it's not for that kind of discussion. We're just going to learn what the BABOK says. And, you know, it's a lot of material. There's a lot of great slide decks that you'll get copies of, and some other supporting material.
And I think it'll be well worth your time and the money that it costs to be in it.
Yeah, this is Trish. I went through it twice, and I agree with Bob. And I did fortunately pass my Cbap, so I'm excited about that. The end of last year. And for Geron and Bob, if anybody wants to have me kind of show how to what I did to apply for the Cbap, as you get into your study group, probably at the end, I'd be happy to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations,
Great.
Trish.
Thank you.
Thanks, Trish.
Awesome.
And, I know we're a little bit over, but I think we did great considering that we got off to a late start. And I want to thank our presenters who, I think Tami's still on, but
Yep.
Tami, Kris, Geron, you guys all did a great job covering, some very interesting and informative material. I also want to thank Steve. I know you did a ton of work getting us to this point, and you pivoted us quickly to get to, this chat session.
Yes.
So
You're
that
the
we
man,
keep going.
Steve. The man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for those that jumped on late because of it, we did record this whole thing, and so we'll have it up on our website by tomorrow morning on our YouTube channel also, along with all the slides.
Excellent. So the one thing we have left, well, just a reminder, our next session's on March 10th, not the 17th.
Yeah.
So be looking for information on that. And the very last thing I think here is to do our raffles. So Steve, maybe you could say what the prize is and pick our winners.
All right, so I have 3 prizes. One's $5 gift card to Starbucks, and then 2 $10 ones. So I'll start with the $5 one. I got everybody's name in here. Even if they had to drop off, we'll still send this out. So the first one is Gabriela Lopez.
Yay.
All right.
All right, next one. Let's see. Geron.
Yay!
All right.
Yay.
Okay.
Did I win a bottle of wine again, just like my first meeting? No.
And then, we got David Ashby in here.
Yay.
So these are e-cards. I'll have them emailed out to you also by tomorrow morning at the latest.
And for the people who express interest in the study group, I'm going to send out an email. You'll be blind copied on it with additional information on, what it takes to be set up for that. And again, one of the main things is you have to be at least in the process of getting your IIBA International membership, because we do use their materials and we refer to the BABOK, which you'll be able to get an electronic copy of. But the biggest thing is their material is copyrighted, and we definitely can't have people on it that aren't part of that organization. So just be looking for the email. There'll be more information there. All right. And I think that will wrap it up. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Look forward.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.